A moment of reflection for Northwestern students as the community comes together to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Controversy continues tonight over Dr. Satoshi Kanazawa on campus, how students are responding.
And a Northwestern superfan speaks out after being silenced for her supersonic spirit, why she's being told to tame her inner wildcat.
Those stories and more tonight on the Northwestern News Report.
It's your news right now.
Raise my fist, put my back against the ropes, and keep fighting.
Keep fighting for change. That's what students were encouraged to do last night, inspired by the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Good evening and welcome to the Northwestern News Report. I'm Alexa McHale.
And I'm Joey Safchik. Thanks for joining us. Students returned to class this morning after MLK Day, and NN's Evan Robinson Johnson has more on how the NU community paused to remember the Reverend's contributions to civil rights.
Music filled the room last night as students, faculty, and Evanston residents came together for a vigil in Alice Millar Chapel to honor the life of Martin Luther King Jr. The vigil featured performances by the Northwestern Community Ensemble, a cappella group Soul for Real, and soloist Oji Afediora. The event was organized by the Brothers of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. David Milliner has been a member of the fraternity for 43 years and says he enjoys the event.
Everything was totally magnificent. It was beautiful. Enjoyed the singing ensemble. Enjoyed the spoken word.
Timothy Mays presented a selection of spoken word poems calling for more activism from the Black community.
This is the year the Black boys grow wings. Before the airbrush t-shirts and Photoshop images on obituaries, not because we are angels or plain, but simply because we are fly like that. This is the year when we clarify the difference.
This is not a time we should be building walls, we should be tearing down walls. This is not a time to be separating humanity, we should be uniting humanity.
Those are the words of keynote speaker Benjamin Chavez Jr., who reflected on MLK's legacy with a clear message.
Steady the ship, keep marching, keep organizing, keep mobilizing, and I guarantee you, freedom will come.
The event ended with a candlelight vigil where visitors passed the light, sharing a moment of hope and looking forward to brighter times. Evan Robinson Johnson, Northwestern News Network.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy and other important lessons of Black history will now be taught in every public elementary and high school in Illinois. That's according to a new law in effect this year. Now, students can't pass 8th grade or graduate high school without studying the subject. Illinois community colleges and public universities are also required to offer a class on Black history, either in person or online.
Last year, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in Chicago to advocate for women's rights, alongside sister marches across the country.
This year, Chicago streets were a lot quieter. NNN's Wyatt Grantham Phillips explains why.
In 2018, Women's March Chicago hosted two major events in the Windy City. 2019 may bring none. In place of a march this month, the organization encouraged its followers to give back to their community in a day of service called Operation Activation.
We came together to create this really awesome opportunity for people to create hyperlocal change.
Some people assume the march was canceled amidst allegations of anti-Semitism in the National Women's March Incorporated organization, which is not affiliated with Women's March Chicago.
But those definitely did not mean that we canceled any events or made any decisions based on what was happening nationally. We had already made this decision ahead of time, and we're just executing the plan we already had in place.
Now, Women's March Chicago leaders want to set the record straight.
Women's March Chicago has always been its own entity. We've always done our work based on the needs and the groups here in Chicago.
With no official Women's March on the calendar for Chicago this year, Roosevelt University student Jasmine Marie Cruz took matters into her own hands.
When I saw that Chicago didn't have a march plan, I wanted to change that. I thought it was important that Chicago would be represented.
About 200 Chicagoans packed into Federal Plaza Saturday morning to join Cruz's rally. Signs in hand, protesters agreed it was important to have their voices heard.
I'm really proud to be here, and I'm especially proud to see young women taking the lead, because women are the future.
Although they weren't directly involved in this year's rally, Women's March Chicago is still encouraging its followers to speak up.
Keep marching. Keep doing what you need to do. Do whatever is necessary to build the power that you need to see the changes in your community.
Fighting for change, one rally at a time. Wyatt Grantham Phillips, Northwestern News Network.
While Women's March Chicago hasn't announced anything firm for the future, they told NNN they expect to march before the 2020 election.
Those marchers sure looked cold out there in the snow. Here is a look at the Rock right now. Snow is still piled up from the weekend snowstorm, and students are still bundled up as they walk around campus. Over the weekend, a blizzard dumped more than half a foot of snow in parts of Evanston. Plows were out in full force, but a few students were brave enough to venture out into the cold. You can see here that some people really made the most of it out on Deering Meadow.
I have encountered many snows, but not as heavy as this one.
No, the wind makes it really brutal.
A lot of gloves, a lot of boots and toe warmers. Those are good.
Our Tiffany Shu will be here in a few minutes to let us know if we should expect another snowy Saturday.
With temperatures dropping, Canada Goose jackets, known for their high price tags, became targets of some violent robberies in Chicago last week. The robbers targeted affluent areas in multiple incidents across Chicago's north and south sides. The coats, which can cost upwards of $1,000, were all taken at gunpoint. Police believe they found the car used in the robberies abandoned late last week. Still, no word about a suspect.
The mother of former NU women's basketball player Jordan Hankins is accusing Northwestern's chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority of hazing her daughter to death. That's according to a lawsuit filed earlier this month. The suit alleges Alpha Kappa Alpha subjected Hankins to physical abuse, including paddling and sleep deprivation, along with verbal abuse and financial exploitation. Hankins' mother claims the sorority knew Hankins was suffering from PTSD and was having suicidal thoughts while she was pledging. We reached out to Northwestern and Alpha Kappa Alpha headquarters. Both declined to comment.
Over winter break, Skye Patterson resigned as president of the Associated Student Government. Patterson has served as ASG president since spring 2018. In her resignation letter, she cited a need to take care of her mental health and focus on academics. Her executive vice president, Emily Ash, has assumed the role of president. J.B. Pritzker will no longer serve on Northwestern's Board of Trustees. The Democrat was sworn in as Illinois governor late last week. He graduated from the Northwestern School of Law in 1993 and has been on the board since 2004. The law school was renamed after him in 2015.
Petitions circulated around social media over winter break demanding Northwestern ban Dr. Satoshi Kanazawa from conducting research on campus. His previous body of work includes papers titled, quote, "Why are black women less physically attractive than other women?" and, quote, "Why beautiful people have more daughters." NNN's Amy Oyoung has the latest on how students are reacting. Amy?
In about an hour, students will come here to the Celtic Knot to talk about ways to move forward after the school said we'll allow Dr. Kanazawa to continue his research on campus. Tonight's event is hosted by the NU Political Union. As you mentioned, Joey, students were up in arms over break, wondering how Northwestern can hire this professor in the first place. I have talked to students who said they are very upset.
Student body, especially black females, to be more specific, really proud to see them really take action and really take steps to create a plan and create some demands and create a real solid plan to go about accomplishing their goals, which is to get this man off of campus.
Now, the psychology department has set up committees to review new hires' previous work before they are offered a position at the school. We are not sure whether other departments will follow suit. Tomorrow, students are organizing a silent protest in Norris, and we will bring you the latest on that as it develops.
Coming up, I sit down with the Northwestern Shrieker.
We'll get a look at this year's dolphin show.
Get ready to layer up because we'll be seeing chillingly low temperatures all week. I'm Tiffany Shu, and coming up next is your 5-day weather forecast.
Go you Northwestern, go Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for the sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
It's been a wild few weeks for one Northwestern fan whose school spirit pierces the heart and the ear. This is senior Emily Harriet at Sunday's Northwestern women's basketball game. She doesn't stand out too much in the spirited student section. But this was Emily at a football game a few weeks ago. For the past 3 years, it was hard to miss her shriek at Northwestern athletic events.
It's just so high energy, like the players just care so much. It's so fun to be like in that atmosphere.
But that came to a screeching halt earlier this month, when Emily received a phone call from NU Athletics. She was asked to please stop the shriek, but wasn't told why.
It was something that I've been doing for the last 3.5 years, so like, I don't know about you, but if you did something for 3.5 years and then you were told to stop, like it's kind of like, oh, huh. A little surprising, you know, it took me a little by surprise. But I mean, I did. It's fine. Like, you know, they've got to have some good reason for it. So, I mean, sure, you know, I don't want anybody to be mad.
But that phone call doesn't stop Emily from cheering on the Cats. She is the president of Wildside, NU's official student section. Wildside's marketing director, Ariana Anaya, says no one loves Northwestern more than Emily.
She's been dedicated to Northwestern athletics for 3.5 years, almost 4 years now. And she has decided not to quit because of this one obstacle.
And if Emily could bleed purple, she would. She has a purple water bottle, purple nail polish, and types in a purple font, often signing off emails with a Go Cats.
Go Cats!
We reached out to the Northwestern Athletics Department, who declined an interview, but provided a statement via email saying, quote, "We adore Emily, sincerely appreciate her passion, and look forward to her leadership in the front row of the student section."
When's the next time you plan on shrieking? You know, depending, you know, maybe for the Big Ten championship, men's basketball, it's in Chicago, so maybe there. Maybe if I go to an away game, I don't know, we'll see.
Just a few weeks ago, Emily was more likely to be heard than seen. Now she's a recognizable face on campus and using her celebrity to spread purple pride. And Emily told me that she's still working on some new ways to show her school spirit. She says she's considering a dance or maybe a new motto.
I feel like we could all use some of her energy. What are we going to do when she graduates?
You know, no one is really sure, so we decided to ask you for your ideas in this week's edition of Rock Talk.
Shrek and Shriek sound very similar. But
maybe Emily will make a reappearance, who knows? Emma?
Me?
Yeah. Give me your best shriek.
Ah! Oh Lord, okay, fine.
Just go for it. Just try it. Ah! Oh my God.
If you have an idea for a future Rock Talk topic, tweet at us at @NNN_news.
Northwestern's Dolphin Show will open its production of Hello Dolly this Friday in Kahn Auditorium. You're looking at video from last year's performance, Ragtime. The Dolphin Show is America's largest student-produced musical. It includes more than 150 undergrads on stage and off. You can get your tickets for this year's show at nudolphinshow.org.
Some starry-eyed students got a front row seat to this weekend's Super Blood Wolf Moon. That's when a total lunar eclipse and a supermoon happen at the same time. Students lined up at the Dearborn Observatory to get a good look, but the dome above the Dearborn telescope literally froze, so astronomers had to set up several smaller telescopes outside for better viewing. Now, Chicago won't see another lunar eclipse until May 2021.
Well, speaking of cold, here's Tiffany Zhu with this week's weather.
We had a chilly day today with a high of 36, and the temperature will only drop from here. Tomorrow will likely be the last bit of sun this week, with a high of 31 and a low of 13. Thursday will be cloudy, with the temperature dipping below zero and a high of 22 and a low of -4. Expect a few flurries Friday afternoon with single-digit temperatures all day. There will be a high of 7 and a low of 3. We'll have a break from the snow on Saturday and Sunday with cloudy skies and slightly warmer but still freezing temperatures. Saturday has a high of 15 and a low of 5, while Sunday has a high of 19 and a low of 17. With your 5-day weather forecast, I'm Tiffany Zhu. Back to you.
Thanks, Tiffany. After the break, how an SNL comedian and a former NU Dance Marathon beneficiary are helping local cancer patients heal.
I'm Megan Leibowitz, and these are your national news highlights. An end could be in sight for the government shutdown, which is now in its 32nd.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
I'm Megan Leibowitz, and these are your national news highlights. An end could be in sight for the government shutdown, which is now in its 32nd day. The Senate is expected to vote Thursday on several measures to temporarily reopen the government. On Saturday, President Trump offered temporary protection for undocumented, quote, dreamers in exchange for border wall funding. But Democrats say it's non-starter. 800,000 people have been out of work since the shutdown started last month. The Supreme Court today temporarily allowed the ban of transgender people in the military to go into effect. The vote was 5-4. President Trump first proposed the policy over Twitter in 2017. A BuzzFeed News article out last week claimed President Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about the Trump Organization's Moscow Tower project. If the allegations are true, some Congress members say they could be grounds for impeachment. A spokesperson for Robert Mueller's special counsel disputed the report, saying, quote, BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office regarding Michael Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate. BuzzFeed says it stands by its reporting. Lastly, the 2020 Democratic field is deepening. Yesterday, California's Democratic Senator Kamala Harris announced she is running for president. Harris joined Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Obama's former housing secretary Julian Castro, and Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who are vying to take on President Trump. Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke, two popular contenders, still haven't announced whether they plan to run. This has been your National Update. I'm Megan Leibowitz.
Each year, Northwestern hosts one of the largest undergraduate human rights conferences in the country. NNN's Amanda Rooker is here with more.
That's right, Joey. Over the weekend, Northwestern University Community for Human Rights hosted their annual student-run conference, which attracts attention from human rights experts all over the world.
I love that there's a human rights conference that's taking this issue in, because it really is about basic human rights. the right to a decent life.
That's Andreas Dahlsgaard, an anthropologist and award-winning filmmaker. He was one of several speakers who came to campus over the weekend for Northwestern's 16th Annual Community for Human Rights Conference. Students from all over the country visited Northwestern Saturday for a screening of Dahlsgaard's documentary, The Human Scale, and to hear his keynote speech. This year's conference was called, quote, "The Right to the City, Mapping Human Rights in the Urban Landscape."
The closing keynote itself was really inspiring, really kind of heartfelt, and it invoked a lot of emotions.
The speech followed a week of discussion, activities, and panels. Students investigated themes of increasing urbanization, city design, and how to improve quality of life for all.
There's so many different components that go into just the way we design cities that subliminally affect human rights, and people don't really think about that, but it's very, very important.
Building better cities from the ground up. NUCHR holds weekly Wednesday meetings in Kresge Hall. These meetings provide education-based programming and activities that facilitate discussion and further action.
So Amanda, what was the most interesting fact you learned at the conference?
Well, the theme had to do with understanding human rights in an urban setting, which was an appropriate choice because this is the first time in human history that the majority of the population lives in urban areas.
That's really fascinating. Thanks so much, Amanda. When we come back, I caught up with a former NUDM beneficiary, helping families affected by cancer heal together.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
For people dealing with heartbreaking diagnoses, it's their support systems that matter most. This week, I spent time with cancer patients and their supporters at Gilda's Club Chicago, a former Northwestern Dance Marathon beneficiary focused on helping patients and their families heal from the inside out.
Someone is diagnosed, you fear the worst, it's your darkest, right? And then just knowing that the Gilda's Club is there to help, that you're not alone.
Susan Cox was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago. Once a quarter, she attends dog therapy at Gilda's Club. Bradford Newquist is the director of development at the club, and he plans numerous events every year meant to bring together anyone affected by cancer.
They aren't just a place for people to come and necessarily always talk about their cancer. Sometimes they may be talking about just the normal things that are happening in their lives, but they're still with people that are going through the same thing they're going through.
But Newquist knows that cancer affects far more than just the person diagnosed with it. The club also supports kids whose parents have been diagnosed.
I kind of felt different than everyone else because everyone else had these healthy parents.
Dedicated to Gilda Radner, the first female comedian on Saturday Night Live, the club aims to give people a place to feel wanted when suffering. In the first 20 years, 45,000 people came through Gilda's Red Door.
I didn't really have many people to talk to as a child, there wasn't a very big push for support for children specifically.
While medical technology has improved the ability to find and treat cancer, a place like the Gilda's Club is more relevant than ever in ensuring that survivors have the resources they need.
I hummed and hawed. I'm like, oh, I don't need it. I don't need it. I'll be fine. And I came down here and had the orientation, and I'm like, I wish I was here during chemo. I wish I had started sooner. But I know that it's a support for me for the rest of my life, and I know it's going to help my children.
And with the money from NUDM, Gilda's Club told me they were able to reach out to more schools and hospitals to encourage people to get help. They said they hope to destigmatize support groups like theirs, so families dealing with cancer don't feel alone.
Really great story, Alexa. We'll be right back.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
And we're back with Tiffany Shu with some final weather updates.
Thanks, Alexa. Make sure to dress in plenty of layers and get yourself some vitamin D supplements because this week there will be little sun and lots of cold.
And Joey, coming from LA, how have you dealt with the cold here?
You know, I'm no Midwestern pro like you. You're from Michigan. But I've been okay. I've been surviving. I got a good coat, a good pair of boots, and I think the snow is totally majestic and fun.
Well, I'll check back in with you in about 3 years.
Yeah, we'll see if I still enjoy it so much. And that's all the time we have for tonight. For all of us here at NNN, I'm Joey Saftik.
I'm Tiffany Shu.
And I'm Alexa McHale. Good night.